What's up guys, we're back with a brand new video. Today's video we'll be doing the updated 2018 redraft. Now I did do this in the off season, but after this season and how players have been developing and how they've improved, I thought, unlike every other draft class, this draft class has absolutely changed a lot. So I thought I'll give my go of doing another redraft of this, and this looks like the outcome that probably will be for the future. Now I have picked this a lot with how they look like their career is going to go and their potential in their career. So a lot of players have been pushed up simply because they haven't really improved from other years, where some players have drastically improved from years in the past. So, but before we get into this video, make sure to drop a like on this video, and we just hit 600 subscribers. So thank you for everyone that has subscribed, and let's get straight into it. So at number 10, I've gone with SHOLL. Now he originally was not in my redraft, but he's absolutely the steal of this year's draft. He was originally picked 64 in this draft, which is absolutely crazy to think. He looks like he could be one of the best wingmen in the competition in the years to come. His ability to, earlier in the season be a real vocal point on how Adelaide actually did push up the ladder this year. His ball use is so good. He knows where to be. His positioning is just next to none, and he's just going to be one of the best wingmen in the comp for the next 10 years. At number 9, I went with XAVIER DUURSMA. Now he was originally picked 18 in this draft, and these first few games this season before he eventually went down with a knee injury, which is really sad to see, but he's returning at the back half of this year. But he looked like he took his game to another level. I really like what he's been doing. His ability to be a wingman, but also get on the end of a few goals, and he's part of the big three of their young stars coming through, and you can just see that he's getting better and better, which is always great to see. Next up, I went with IZAK RANKINE. Now I think he's a couple spots back from my last video that I made, but he has not really improved much like he probably thought he was going to do this year. I haven't really seen much improvement, and he really had a very, very good start to his career. He looked like an absolute star, but then he kind of, at the back half of 2020, he kind of took a step backwards. Very inconsistent, try to take more on than he could. And this year, he's probably the same that he was last year, hasn't really improved too much. But I feel like he needs to be on the same trajectory as someone like a Kozzie Pickett. You see that Kozzie Pickett took his game to another level. And I think everyone last year thought that IZAK RANKINE was a much better player than Kozzie Pickett, was going to be a better player than Kozzie Pickett. But this year, Kozzie Pickett's gone to an absolute another level, and IZAK RANKINE's kind of taken a few steps back. So that's why I put him at number 8. Next up at number 7, I've gone with LUKOSIUS. Now, he was originally picked 2 in this draft, originally drafted as a key forward, but has found his way into a wing halfback type of role, playing it sometimes the third tall down back for the Suns. But his ball use is absolutely elite, and if this was any other draft, he probably would be in the top 5, but I just can't find him in there with the players in front of him. It is absolute stars of the competition, and that's why this is the 2018 Super Draft, because that's just what it was. But this man, great instant marker, can read the play. I like him much more as a halfback than an actual forward, and even his wing role this year has been absolutely sublime. And you can see he's almost going to be the next Nick Cox, and kind of like a Nick Cox role, because his ball use is absolutely elite, and this is the guy you want kicking into the players like Ben King for the future. Now this is the guy that has really taken a step back from my original redraft in ROZEE. He was originally pick 5, but I'm pretty sure, I didn't fact check this, but my last video I'm pretty sure I had him in number 2, but he's just, since last year, he seemed to just not be able to take his game to another level like the players in front of him. He seems to just like stagnated from, his first year in 2019. He was probably the same player in 2020, but people started to say, that players are going ahead of him from this draft. But this year, the games he's played, I know he's played with a bit of an injury. He still has his class, obviously. Like, I'm not saying he's not a bad player, but he's just taken a bit of a, like, he hasn't, not like he's gone backwards, but he's kind of stagnated in his development, which is a bit weird. I don't know if that means they should chuck him into like a midfield role to try him out there. But him as a forward hasn't seemed to be as impactful as we first thought. But, he still has a long career ahead of him. It's just that I'm seeing him a bit stagnated lately with his development. So we'll see how his career goes on from here. Next up, at number 5, I've gone with Ben King. He was originally picked 6 and was drafted as a key defender. And spoiler alert, Max King's next. And everyone always says Ben King's better than Max King's better than Ben King. But let's be honest, they're not too much different players, so you can put them whatever order. I've just chosen to put Ben here, Max next, but you can do whatever you want. But I feel like that they're fourth and fifth in this draft, either way you put it. So Ben King, I have here as a key defender. He's been very, very good. I'm pretty sure it's like top 5 in the Coleman right now, which is really good. He's been actually pretty accurate this season, but I feel like even though he's probably I think he's kicked more goals than Max this year by a few goals, but he's got a lot more opportunities since he's pretty much the focal point in their Gold Coast team. They kick it to him every opportunity they do, and I could see this man even being in the Coleman medal race this year. And next up, as I mentioned before, is Big Max King. Now, this guy has a bit of a problem this year. He probably would have kicked almost more goals than Ben King this year, but he's just been very inaccurate this year. He could almost kick 5 on the weekend. He kicked 5 a couple of weeks ago. He can kick bags, but sometimes, St Kilda being in really bad form this year. They've only played probably 2 or 3 good games this year out of the 7 that they've played. So you can't really blame Max King for his struggles, but he still managed, I think, about 14 to 17 goals this year, which is really, really good for how poor St Kilda have been in some of the rounds this year. And number 3, I've put Bailey Smith. Now, this is the guy I originally chucked at number 1 last year, because I just feel like he just took his game to another level. He was so damaging, he was so fast, he was so good. But taking him a few steps back, and this is not really his fault. I just think that the 2 blokes in front of him are just absolutely star level players, and this man is going to be a star. It's pretty obvious. He's probably not getting the opportunities. He's actually been kicked out on a wing this year, Bailey Smith, which is probably really stunted his development, even though he still is an absolute star midfielder, and love the way he goes about it when he plays football. But I feel like that the 2 players in front of him are just so good, but Bailey Smith is going to be an absolute star. Don't get that wrong. And number 2 could be a surprise. I've got Zach Butters. He's been really picked 12. He was kind of like a half forward, small forward role his first 2 years in the AFL, 2019, 2020. But the games he played in 2021, he got the starting inside mid role, and his first few games before he ended up going down with an ankle injury was some of the best young football I've ever seen. He looked like a young Gary Ablett Jr. That's just how good and how impactful he is. He probably has the most impact out of anyone in this draft. Once he finds, starts getting more of the ball, because every time he gets the ball, something happens. He's just that type of player. He's so elite by foot. He's probably one of the toughest players at the football I've seen for his size. He's a bit undersized, I'm pretty sure, as a midfielder, but he goes in harder than anyone I've ever seen go over the football. And he's about 20 years old, and he's going that hard at the football. That just shows that he's going to be an absolute star. And he's probably one of my favourite players from this draft class, if not my favourite player from this draft class. And at number 1, pretty easy to see, is Sam Walsh. He was originally pick 1 in this draft, and he's up there for the Brownlow contention this year. Now, he hasn't been, in All-Australian contentions like Zach Butters was last year when he got named in the 40-man squad. But this man, Sam Walsh, has been absolutely electric, averaging over 30 disposals this year, actually hitting the scoreboard, being damaging. He's so quick on the outside. People thought he was only going to be an outside player in his first couple of years, but he's more and more going inside. He's pretty much almost a full-time inside mid now. He's impossible to tag because he gets you. He's probably the hardest running midfielder in the competition, and it's easily the Blues' best player at 20 years old. He's much better than Paddy Cripps these days, and he's definitely the best player, and I could see him winning the Brownlow. He just needs to try to get his team over the line. That Carlton have been pretty poor this year, so they need to try to get his teams over the line. He's definitely got a few 3-vote games this year, and once Carlton start winning games, this guy will be all over the Brownlow medals, because he's just that type of star player, and in getting comparison to Chris Judd. So thanks for watching, guys. Drop down in the comments how you would have done the top 10 redrafting the whole draft, and see how I went. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.